Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. I'm so glad to have back on the program Dr. Ronny Jackson, former White House physician and Republican candidate for Congress in the 13th District in Texas. So it's been a couple weeks since I had you on and we last talked, and of course a lot has happened. Have you seen anything, particularly Joe Biden's speech on Thursday night, that would make you rethink that he has cognitive decline?
No, I haven't seen anything, Kyle, that's really changed my mind. I mean, I think he did better than expected, I think, last night with his address. But, to be honest, let's just look at, put that in context. That was heavily rehearsed. It was with the teleprompter. The real test of, does he have the cognitive ability to do the job? And is there something cognitively that's changed over the last few years with him is going to be how he reacts, in an unrehearsed setting, and obviously, I'd love to see the dates happen because I think that would be a big test, and that would be a way to prove to the public, if he's interested in doing so, that he doesn't have any cognitive disability. Would be to debate the president head to head in an unrehearsed fashion, and I think that would be a much different scenario than what we saw last night. But nothing's changed my mind. You still have to go back and you look at the same countless times over the last few months where he's just completely lost his train of thought. And he can't figure out what's going on or where he's at or what he was talking about or what the issue was. And he just gets frustrated and he just abandons the whole process and tries to move on to something else, but not in a very graceful way. So I haven't changed my mind about it.
Overcoming stuttering was a theme Thursday night. As you know, I think the Biden campaign, and he specifically has talked about, he had a stutter when he was younger. There was a very poignant moment Thursday night when there was a boy who was, giving a speech to the DNC, and he had a stutter. So they were focusing on that. So what I've been sort of reading into over the last several months is that the Biden campaign has been focusing on that. And saying, that was an issue for him in the past. But I don't remember, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember Joe Biden stuttering during the 70s, during the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. What do you think? Talk a little bit about sort of, the science of stuttering, and if they are using that, and if you think that they're using that to sort of paper over what else he may have going on.
Well, I don't know. I can't say I know a whole lot about the science of stuttering. I'm not a speech pathologist or a psychologist, but I'll tell you that, we see people that stutter in youth all the time, and they get over it when they learn how to get past it as they get older and they don't stutter anymore. And I think that's what you'll see with Joe Biden. I don't think that they're using that. I do think that they're using that as an excuse because, like you said, you can clearly go and you can look back. It's not like Joe Biden's somebody who's brand new. Has just been introduced to us. We've known Joe Biden for years now. There's tons and tons of footage all over the place of him, throughout his 50-something years in government that we can go back and reference. And this is something that's new. This is not something that's been happening in the past. And so for him to have had childhood stuttering and then overcome it for most of his entire adult life, and then suddenly it comes back in his at this point now that he's in this race and it's suddenly an issue. I don't buy that. I just think that's an effort to cover things up.
Do you see his apparent cognitive decline? Because when we last talked, you were very clear you're not his physician, you have not diagnosed him. But do you see that apparent issue growing as the campaign goes on, or do you think that's something that he can sort of explain away?
No, I think it's going to only grow as time goes on, assuming that he gets out and he actually has the 3 debates that he's committed to with President Trump. I think those are going to be very telling. And, if he gets back out on the campaign trail and starts campaigning again, which hopefully he'll be able to do, President Trump's doing some of that. And I think it's perfectly safe to do that if you do it in the right way right now. But they're really sheltered. They're continuing to shelter him and keep him off the campaign trail. But if he gets back on the campaign trail, if he debates President Trump in these 3 debates that he's committed to, it's absolutely going to become a bigger issue as we move on, because it's going to put it out there on display for everybody. And I don't think that his debates and him on the campaign trail in an unprompted fashion are going to result in somewhat of a, polished performance like you may have had last night.
Right. There was news this week that his campaign will not be investing in a plane, which of course is, a very nice convenience for candidates because they can go wherever they want, whenever they want. They can take the media with them. They can use that as sort of a mobile office, as President Trump has done, either with his personal plane or Air Force One. Do you think that that's a signal that he is just sort of going to, hunker down in his basement and he's going to try and run a campaign that way? And can that work?
I don't think it can work. I hope it doesn't work, but that's absolutely the plan. I think that's been the plan for a long time now. Their plan is just to keep him out of sight and just have everybody else run on his behalf and basically run against the president. And that's all they're doing right now. They're not out there telling folks what Joe Biden can do for our country that President Trump can't do. They're all just tearing President Trump down, which is what they've been doing for the last 3.5 years. But I think their plan is to keep him as secluded and as sheltered as possible and have as little public exposure as they can possibly get away with. And I think the fact that they don't have a plane that they're contracting for, or they're going to have on, to fly him around the country to campaign is a big indicator that that's probably their. And I don't think it'll work. I don't think the American people buy it. I think at the point the American people are going to demand that he get out, that he talk to the public, that he debate the president, and some of the stuff that's traditionally done, that he do it. If President Trump can do it safely. Politicians all over this country are doing it. 13. It can be done. They're not doing it because they want to shelter him, not because they're worried about coronavirus, although they'll use the coronavirus as an excuse.
What would happen if you're running for Congress and you go to your voters and you say, I'm not going to do any events, I'm not going to talk to anyone, or I'm just going to talk to you, I don't want to talk with you? What do you think the reaction would be in your district?
Well, in this district, it wouldn't fly at all. I mean, I would get summarily beat. I mean, it's just people here expect you to get out and talk to them, introduce yourself, tell your story, tell them what you can do for them, what you can do for your district, and what you can do for this country. And that's what he needs to be doing as well. Got out and is confident in the folks in the electorate. He has not. And he needs to do it. If he wants to be president, he needs to get out. He needs to speak to the people. He needs to inspire confidence in the folks and demonstrate that he's capable of doing the job. And you from the very beginning that, I'm not his doctor and I've not taken care of him before. And I'm not saying these things as a diagnosis for Joe Biden. I'm saying these things as a concerned citizen. I do happen to be a doctor. I'm not practicing right now. I'm running for Congress. As a concerned, and you don't have to be a physician to see what's been going on for the last few months with him to be concerned about it. And I'm just parroting a lot of what people all over this country are saying.
Talk a little bit about, because you've been in the White House, you've worked right alongside President Trump. Talk a little bit about the demands on that office, and if someone is in cognitive decline, what exactly that means for the day-to-day activities.
Well, it's going to be devastating if that's the case, because that's a physically demanding job, long hours, very little sleep, and you have to be mentally very sharp because you have to be able to multitask. You have to be able to handle multiple issues simultaneously, and you have to be able to remember a lot of stuff that you get pushed at you very quickly that you have to be able to fall back on later on and comment on or make decisions. I think that if you're not mentally 100% and cognitively as prepared as you can be and completely cognitively normal, you're going to have some real difficulty with that. And the physical nature of it and the fact that you don't get a lot of sleep and things like that, it's only going to make the cognitive part worse if you don't have the cognitive reserve to do the job. So I think it's going to be a patient in my mind based on what I've seen if Joe Biden ends up in that role.
Why do you think the media doesn't be more aggressive at trying to sort of get to the bottom of whether or not he has issues?
Well, because they despise President Trump. I mean, the media is just another branch. The far left, the liberal media, they're synonymous. I mean, the far left controls the most media to a large extent, and they despise President Trump. And we've seen that for 3.5 years now. And there's such a double standard. That's one of the reasons I got upset about this initially, is because President Trump never did anything to cause anyone to question his cognitive ability when he first became president.
Well, Dr. Ronny Jackson, former White House physician and Republican candidate for Congress in the 13th District in Texas, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back.